Hello, everybody, and welcome to another talk. Today, I'm going to be talking with Narendra Das. Now, I should just go into a little bit of background about how we connected. My previous video was with Kalyanji, and I guess you guys are, well, you can tell us a story of how you two connected, but after I spoke to Kalyan, he said, you really need to speak to this friend of mine who's a specialist also in Ayurveda. He's got an interesting tale to tell. And we kind of connected about a week ago, had a brief discussion, and I just realized straight away, you had a really interesting story. So I thought you'd be a great person to invite onto this channel to hear your story. I don't do a huge amount of background on people because, to be honest, it's better that you explain it. It's such an in-depth story and it's such an interesting story. It's better that it comes from you, really. So I see myself as just somebody who's kind of introducing interesting people. I'm just kind of in the background listening myself. So why don't you go ahead and tell people basically how you found Ayurveda, a little bit about your background. I know you specialize a lot in the Nadi, the pulse taking, and a little bit of the palmistry as well, or the Hasta Rekha. So indeed, I think you were actually saying you were combining them, which was really interesting. And then, just kind of just give people a bit of a background and just explain how you got to where you are.
Okay, nice. So I'm from the French Alps, so I'm living close to Grenoble, who was the city of the Winter Olympic Games in 1968. So I used to live in the mountains. I'm still living in the mountains, and I think I was really sensitive to the nature around me, and I was willing to understand how all this beauty is working. So I think I have not straight away the connection who permit my rational brain to know how the photosynthesis was doing and how the animals and the ecosystem was linked all together. But intuitively, I always felt that something was going on who are beyond our actual science and understanding, and I was always fascinated by that, really. So I have not really the chance to study what I wanted at the first place, and it was really later, at the age of 20, I guess, that I decided to stop school by myself. In a strange story, I was on my desk and I was thinking, it was the end of the day, and I was thinking, since how long I was there in this school pattern and what I had studied and all. And surprisingly, it was like a voice in my head saying, look, man, you are here since too long. It's too long you are here. So you quit today. So this is what I have decided. I take a sheet of paper and I write to my chancellor. I go to the chancellor office and say, sir, I have to quit school now. And say, why? From where did you get this idea? It's totally stupid and it's a nonsense. And for me, I was not able to explain to him, but I just smiled and say, I just have to quit. And at that time, I was also in love with medicinal plant. I was in a horticulture study, and I wanted to perfectionize myself in the medicinal plant field, but I didn't know how, because in France and actually in Europe, I think the legislation about medicinal plants and the people who have the right to sell or to advise in the health field of medicinal plants are not recognized. So it was like 25 years ago. It's just not just now that you get all this medicinal plant, naturopathy everywhere on the net. It was really like special, you know. So the very same evening, I was like walking with my dog in the mountain, and my dog decided to run away. So I called him again and again. He never came back. So I was thinking maybe he's in my neighbor house. And I know there is also a female dog there. And so I went there. And this neighbor that I was not knowing that much, he invited me. So I went there and we started to have a bunch of beer and discussion about the place and how he's feeling here, because they were from Paris and from the city, and they were not accustomed to the forest and the mountain. And there is a woman who was there and said, look, I heard that you are interested about medicinal plant, and actually my aunt is Nelly Grosjean and my grandmother is Irène Grosjean, who were really famous naturopaths and aromatherapists in France at that time. So they are searching for a gardener, and they want to design this middle-aged, old-fashioned garden with medicinal plants, and we are searching for a gardener. I say, I am your man. No problem. So the next day, I took my car, my dog, and I went to the south of France, and I start for 9 or 10 months to build this garden, and also to study aromatherapy, because the deal was I do the work and I study aromatherapy and naturopathy with those persons. So this is how I came into the field of health, rather than only botanics and medicinal plants as a hobby. It was the specialty of those persons, and Nelly Grosjean studied in USA, because at that time there were no study of aromatherapy really, apart in the medical regular field, which is like 10 or 15 hours in the syllabus of the allopathic doctors. So she went to USA and she came back with this knowledge. And actually, she was working with the local people of the distillation, you know, with the alembics and all, because in south of France, you know, this is a place where, for the perfume, there are still a lot of people who are working with alembics and essential oil for the perfume. But at that time, not really for the medical purpose.
Right.
And slowly, she and some other people bring back this aromatherapeutics knowledge in France, and I was one of her students. So I was really amazed of that place, and in the evening, there were a lot of people coming because they were really famous in France, politics people, lawyers, psychic people, naturopaths, homeopaths who were really famous. And as a young guy, I was there eating raw food because I was, you know, in naturopathy at that time, I was tasting this raw food for, 10 or 11 months. I was full of energy. I was a lot of acne, and half of my acne disappeared just by changing my food. So I was studying inside myself and studying also outside with a lot of interesting people. So for me, it is always this two-way: learning inside, learning outside. I cannot learn outside without learning in myself. So I always found that my first laboratory, my first book is my own body, my own energetic field. And I'm really passionate of how all this is functioning, and to extract the knowledge from the Akashic field somehow. And for me, all this classic book is a proof that my own experiments echo somehow other people who used to have, I think, a similar pattern of studying, meaning to be close to a guru, but also learning by their own introspective techniques, meditation, pranayama, and all, to learn from the very source, for the very core of nature. And at this time also, so I start to study medicinal plant, but I start to study also meditation. So I keep in contact with Vipassana meditation as taught by Isen Goenka. And it changed totally my mind pattern, my body and energetic field pattern. And I was totally amazed. And I found for the first time what I was searching when I was a child, a real connection with nature, with the tools who permit myself to decode this dialogue with nature inside my own body. And this codes somehow this basic principle of nature, where we were speaking of the Mahabhuta, no? The Prithvi, Ap, Teja, Vayu, Akash, or the 5 elements. To start to understand nature by my own experience of the guna, means the property attached to those bhuta, I start to understand that behind the use of medicinal plant, behind the use of food, behind the use of all the hygienic advices that I can give to person, there are principles who are linking everything.
Yeah.
So, but still, I do not have really the connection with the science who spoke about that. I was studying medicinal plant, I was studying naturopathy, but I was not able to make really the link in between those basic principles that I was experimented inside myself, and the book and the class and the course and the how to applicate all those things. And then after years of working in as an herbalist in the city of Grenoble, and to advise many people about their hygiene, their food, and all that, I feel that I was missing something, really. So I start to have an interest about the history of medicine. So when I was planning to do a lecture on it, I start to be in touch with what we call Ayurveda. And when I was searching for that, I was more and more interested. It was the beginning of internet at that time, but there was like really few information about it. So I decided to purchase some books. At that time, there was the books of Dr. David Frawley and Dr. Swoboda, Robert Swoboda. So I purchased those 2 books. And as soon as I read 2 pages of these 2 books. I close that books. I never read them again. It was so exciting inside me. I said, yes, this is that. I can now understand that behind those principles that I feel that I can experience in my meditation exploration, there are other people who were able to do that centuries or millenniums ago, and who arranged that. And this arrangement is called Ayurveda. I was so touched by that I cannot sleep for 2 or 3 days. And at that point, I was searching for studying Ayurveda. So I didn't want to study that in France. At the beginning, I start to call some school here and there in Europe, but I was not satisfied. And I spoke with my wife, who was really happy also to go to India. And we just planned to go for India for 6 years with the fact that we never had been there before. So it was totally crazy. We were not all the funding, all the money to stay there for 6 years. The amount was not, enough. But even we decided to go. And when we arrived there, everything was arranged that we can finish properly my study, her study. She studied yoga and naturopathy over there. And everything was like smooth in the money problematics. So, yeah. So this is there in Jamnagar that I have studied for 5.5 years, the BIMS. And this is here that I met Kalyan. And actually, I met Kalyan. He was like a young boy who were really eager to learn everything. He was really passionate about plants. And I pushed him to say, okay, come for 5.5 years. It will be great. So when he arrived in India, when he finally decided to come in India, I was planning myself to go out of India because I was just finished my study. So this is how I met Kalyan, and we of course always keep in touch because he's really passionate like me, and we can exchange in the different subject, Ayurveda, yoga, tantra, whatever. For me, Atreya Smith, Dr. Vasantla, Dr. David Froley, Dr. Robert Svoboda, they are initiator of something that is beyond what we can imagine, because as a student, I was inspired by their book, and without them, the rough way of studying Ayurveda in India, who is quite a nightmare, because this is a lot of things by heart. This is maybe in England or in France, our grandfather and grandmother study like that, no? This is the school bench are in wood. It's like very uncomfortable. This is all by heart. You have to read a lot of sloka by heart. But to understand how all this is linked, how the Ayurveda, for us as a Westerner, is really important to understand. But for Indians, is not in the first instance to understand is not the priority. The priority is to know, and understand is coming later on. For us, it's important to understand, then we can know, and then to learn by heart, make a sense somehow.
There's been sort of a bit of a cross-pollination again, hasn't there? It's like this, it filtered out to the West, was kind of reorganized and reinterpreted in some ways, but made very accessible. And it's almost like that material then got exported back into India again. Because I go around when I was there, I was in Indian bookshops, and you see Atreya, you see David Frawley. It's kind of funny, isn't it, to see it?
Yes.
But ultimately, probably now you feel more comfortable going back to the original script, reading like the Charakas and the Ashtangas. Those are kind of the ones I enjoy reading, because I just like dipping in and out. I find it difficult to read the Western ones now, but I needed those Western ones to start with.
Yes, of course. And for me now, I'm going in all the classical texts without, I cannot say that really, but with no problem, because the basic principles for me are really clear. I'm still learning in the basic principle, but what I say to my students, if you are not masterize the basic principle, you can not go in depth on this classical book, because the Sanda Bhashya means this, this secret meaning inside the book, in between the shloka, in between the verses, are not keeping in touch, are not, in dialogues with you, if you are not mastering the basic principle.
Mm.
And the basic principles are really hard to go in if you are not any experience of it, intellectually, physically, in your field of sensation. If you are not in touch with the basic principle of Ayurveda inside yourself, it's very difficult to going inside classical text. And for me, there is a difference between a Sanskrit scholar who are not enough any experience of meditation, no experience of the field he's translating right now, and someone who may be a less good translator in Sanskrit, but have a real experience inside himself or herself about what he's translating, you know. And you now as a scholar, I can see the difference in the translation of some yogic books or Ayurvedic books, that the one who is translating is just like a Sanskritist, or is a Sanskritist as well someone who is practicing something. And it makes all the difference. And you can open all that book there. For me, I feel like I'm Indiana Jones, you know. I'm on my desk, I open the books, I read the Sanskrit, I check the translation sometime in English, and I just travel. I travel in my mind, I travel in my energetic field, in my body, and I feel. And I think those books are made for people who have a real introspection. They are not made as a textbook for, okay, you have this problem, you take that pill, so you do that. Of course, you find that. But if you are not feeling those basic principles of Ayurveda, who make Ayurveda as a holistic approach of life, because Ayurveda is, you know, Ayush plus Veda. It means it is the knowledge of life. It is not a medicine. Basically, it's not a medicine. It's not a system of medicine. For me, Ayurveda as a medicine is a byproduct of what is really Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the science of life, meaning to be able to feel life, to translate life, to communicate with life all around you, and to see and to feel how it's working. And of course, if this knowledge can help people, and in the medical field, why not? But for me, this is secondary. And I'm pretty agree with all these scholars like Dr. Zisk from Denmark, Dr. Wojcicki, Dr. Malison, and all, who are thinking that Ayurveda evolved from an ascetic milieu. This is not Ayurveda, of course, is linked with the Vedas, but actually is not the only source. The source, because actually the people who were touching blood and pus was rejected somehow by the Brahmanism, and they were pushed to study by themselves in near to the tribal people, near to people like the Buddhist ascetics, the Jaina ascetics, the Charvakyas ascetics, and the tantrics as well, and to study as well the subtle body, nadis, chakra, marma, and prana, how it works, and to understand that from that depth and from that understanding, this experience of that subtle body, from there you can touch a knowledge which is always available. And it's why all the science of Ayurveda is a recollection. You know, in the Ashtanga Hridaya, when we Vagbhata is enumerated the descending of the teacher of Ayurveda. He starts by Brahma Smrutyo Vedam, means Brahma himself remembered Ayurveda. So the divine consciousness somehow himself remembers something. He just say, he was not just like, okay, I have the science, I give it to you. No, he remember from the field. From the field, he himself penetrates everywhere. From that field, he recollects something. And from that start the recollection process of the rishis that in the Charaka Samhita itself, it is recorded. I think this is in Sutrasthana, first chapter, 41 shloka. They say that Bharadwaj and all the rishis came to the Himalaya, and by meditation, they start to connect some different entities like Indra, Brahma, and all to recollect Ayurveda.
Right.
This is not by reciting mantra. This is not by practicing some rituals. This is by their own introspection attitude, their own meditation, that they recollect the basis of nature, the bhutas, the mahabhutas, the prana, the vayu, how the vayu in their own dynamics animate this body and link the body with the mind, and how this is in connection with the nature, no? Puroshoyam loka samhitam means the world is the same image as an individual, and the individual is at the image of the world. So they study that by themselves. They recollect Ayurveda as a knowledge of life, and so somehow it became a medical system. But at the really core of it, in the basic principle, by this knowledge of the bhuta, the nadis, the subtle body, the kosha and all, this is the same language in the classic of the Hatha Yoga, in the classics of the Tantra, in the classic of Ayurveda, in the classic of Rasa Shastra. The same code is at the really roots of all that science who evolve in their own respective thematics. And this, for me, is essential. And this is what I try to practice every day. When I have time, I don't start to open a book. I start to meditate. And if I have time after my meditation, I open the book. Rather than open the book, read. And if I have time, I go and open my own book inside me. You know?
Yeah.
When I was student in India, I lose that. It means that the study is so difficult that you read all the time, maybe 12 or 14 hours per day. You are learning, you are studying, or if you are not there, you are in the hospital, or you are at school, in the college. It's a science of life which is totally alive. This is not dry in a piece of paper.
No, definitely. You've got that weird phenomena as well. I don't know whether you experience it, but sometimes I'll go back to reread some of those classics and you just suddenly see a whole load of stuff in there that you didn't see the first time. You think, how did I miss that? And then you go back again and it's almost like every time it's something different. It's the same thing, but somehow you get something more from it. As you go into it, it gets richer. You kind of think, I see that connection now. But like you say, you need all these component parts to understand how it works. You can't just that's why they're frightening, aren't they? When you first open those books, you think, wow, this is just completely alien. I mean, I remember I opened on Ayurveda, I thought this is just all alien language. It's like trying to read alien hieroglyphs. But gradually, as you understand it, it just speaks to you. You just get the feeling of it. So fascinating. So could you tell us a little bit about, so obviously your specialty is the kind of area of the pulse. Yeah. This is one of the things that now this has really interested me in Ayurveda. I really struggled to find I mean, I know the information's out there, but I just really struggled to find anything that I could really use. The only one guy I came across was a guy, a friend of mine, or who became a friend, a guy in Sweden, and he had a system that he'd learnt, and it was a very simple system, and it worked very well. And that's the one I still use today, because it's just one that you get comfortable with it, and it worked for me. But I see so many other practitioners. A friend of mine's a Chinese practitioner. He does all this amazing stuff, and so I really struggle to find a lot of information on that. And I know that's something that you've kind of gone or become a specialist in. So perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about how you got involved in the kind of pulse taking side.
Yes. So again, it's a really good example for me. The practice of Nadi Pariksha. You cannot separate your own introspective hygiene and your own wisdom that you can get from your own practice to the reading of the Nadi Pariksha, because it cannot be only a techniques or a methods. You may have a good techniques, but if you have not a good insight, you will do nothing with it. So first, the study of Nadi Pariksha is a lifelong study, and it's a good Nadi Pariksha taker for me is someone who exercise him or herself science very long. Myself, I got the techniques pretty soon, and I am still exploring it after maybe now it's like 13 years that I'm practicing. And I'm really far from being a good reader of pulse, despite the fact, of course, that I'm quite successful in it. I can feel what I think I know, but I really feel the whole thing that I still do not know. And I had the chance to meet a guru who are expert in the field, in a parampara, means in the guru shishya tradition, so meaning from master to pupils learning. From south of India in Kerala, and this parampara is called the Lada Vidya parampara. So Lada means, in the Tamils, it means the people who are moving. Yes, they are nomadic people, and he's from a tribes from South India, and they, like in the old days, Charaka. Charaka is from Sanskrit roots. Char means who move.
Yeah.
So Charaka, for many scholars in India, Charaka are groups of persons rather than one person. They are kind of medical sect that have the habits to move because they were obliged to move, because they are not allowed to take a part in the rituals. They cannot stay somewhere because they are touching blood, they are touching pus and all. So they are rejected by the Brahmanic caste, and they cannot stay somewhere, So they used to move and to give service to the society. Most of the time they had some, scholarship by the Raj, by the king of the state, who called the Vaidya and say, look, come to my state and give service to my people, and I will give you some money. So those Charaka were specific doctors who were moving here and there all over India. So many, they were, I guess they were ascetics with a really good knowledge of yoga and tantra and all, but specialized for health. Okay. So Lada Vidya, for me, is a remnant in the same field that this old way of doing medicine at that time, where those people were always moving. So my own guru, since 28 years, he's moving from city to city every month. So it means he's at home for 3 days per month. He's preparing his own medicine. Okay. And then after he go to the state of Gujarat, to Maharashtra, Karnataka, Goa, Karnataka and Kerala. And he's always moving. He have some places like orphanage, ashram and all, giving free service. The only thing he has for money is his own preparation. So he have some people who collect herbs here and there, and he prepare his own medicine. He's paid by selling medicine. But as a physician, as a Vaidya, he's not asking for fees for his consultation. So I learned from them, and the story is incredible. It's pretty long, so I will try to make it short.
Okay.
But somehow, when I arrived in India in 2008, I was thinking that all the Vaidya in India were taking the Nadi Pariksha. Everyone was an expert in that field. And I was really surprised when I arrived in Jamnagar that when I spoke about that, it is like in France, when you spoke about these old ladies who were using plant like, like a witch. It's not science. Of course, there are people who knows, but they are really few, and they are not from here. So all the people who have the MD, PhD, of course, they're really famous because they have the diploma. And in India, the diploma, like elsewhere, are really important. So you are someone because you have this diploma. But it is another thing to be someone with the real skills in a field that nobody really understands and who are expert in it and are famous for it. So when I used to speak to my teacher who are really, top graduate in Ayurveda, they just like discard it. Because somehow I start to pick the fact that, look, there is a field which is really famous in Ayurveda. There's some book in it and all, but you are not an expert in that. So rather to say, yet, I did not have the time, I did not find the right person, they just discard it. And because this is not a non-reproducible tools of diagnosis somehow. So my teacher took the pulse, but they took, the normal BP rate, pulse rates per minute and all, and but nothing else. And few of them was just start to speaking about the animals, the gaits of the animals you can find in the pulse. But that's it. But somehow this is what you may find as information in the late Samhita, like the Sharangadhara Samhita, Bhavaprakash, Yogaratnakar, which are latest textbook of Ayurveda who were speaking about Nadi Pariksha. So I was like eager to collect information from that Samhita, but most of the books I wanted to learn were in Tamil languages, because actually in the South India, in the Siddha way of doing Ayurveda, they are expert in it. And my guru came from that lineage. And the story why I met him in Gujarat is the following. As I mentioned earlier, there is this 3 months course for foreigner. So one day there's this French guy coming, native Indian. His name is Gupta. So he went there, was study Ayurveda, and as 2 French people, in a foreign country, were eager to speak our own language. Yeah. So we start to speak, and he said, look, nobody is teaching here in this university with like one of the biggest Ayurvedic university in the world. Nobody is taking in serious Nadi Pariksha, and nobody is talking about it. So where can I find it? I say, look, this is since 2 years I try to find the real master. I'm not able to find it. So I don't know. So at that time, I was studying only with the book of Dr. Vasant Lad about the Nadi Pariksha, and I tried my best to learn by myself. That's it. So after this 3 months course, this person have a trip in India for searching for many months about a Nadi Pariksha master, but most of the masters, and there are few of them, I can really say that there is a few of them who are still people of, there are 4 Greek lineage in India about Nadi Pariksha. This is the lineage from Sri Lanka, which is from Ravana.
Ravana, I was going to say Ravana, yeah.
There is one is from Agastya. My parampara is from Agastya Acharya. Another in Bengal in the east, which is Matsya lineage, but I do not know that much. And in the west, in Gujarat, this is a Surya Chandra parampara, who are 4 big lineage with their own way to take pulse. I know that there are even lineage that, for example, you know, this index for Vata, major for Pitta, and auricular for Kapha. But some people are changing the finger. This is the opposite way. Okay. So they used to have a lot of different lineage, and my guru said today there are only 4 lineage who are remaining of the old days. And among these, there are still few people who are practicing, and mainly in the Ravana Sampradaya and in the Agastya Sampradaya. The 2 other from the north are like vanishing slowly and slowly, as per he said. I cannot really truly be sure of what he said, but this is what he said. So this person went to India everywhere, and somehow he met my future guru, and he asked, look, you are master in Nadi Pariksha. I was in Jamnagar a few months ago, and nobody is speaking about Nadi Pariksha over there. Nobody is using that. And my master was so surprised. Say, look, this great university, you know, because when you are a student or you are diplomated from Jamnagar is something in India. Jamnagar is really an institution who is really something in India. And for him, Jamnagar is really something because, you know, all the whispering here and there, he taught about in Ayurveda. People say that Jamnagar is great. But for him, as a Nadi Pariksha guru, he was so surprised and disappointing. Nobody was teaching that. So he decided, despite the fact he have like a few money, to go in Gujarat and to teach Nadi Pariksha. And somehow this is how I met him.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is how I start to be included, to have the chance to be included in this parampara. So for me, it was at the end of my study. It was just before my internship, because we have 1 year of internship in the BIMS syllabus. So it was in 2013, at the really beginning of the 2013, I started to meet him. And it was something like, I was like a child in Disneyland, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now I understand that my purpose to be in India is for that. Of course, I enjoy my BIMS and all, but I feel in my really body that, yes, this is for that. I keep in touch with my guru, and he asked me to take Diksha. So Diksha is the initiation. And during that Diksha, he gave me the name of Narendra Das. So he asked his father, so my other guru, at that time he was 16 years old. So his father is living in the forest, in a hut. He was a Rasa Shastra master and herbalist as well. So he was only living in, you know, in like 3 square, maybe 5 square meter hut. He have a raw banana, raw manioc, and a bag of rice in a corner of his kitchen. He have no table, no chair. He have one mattress in another room. Few things. He have 96 years old. He was living alone in the forest, and maybe 2 or 3 kilometers from the place where he used to live, there is a Kerala forest department house. So when my guru called his father, he called the forest department. And so one guy decided to go to the forest to search the father because he have an important question to ask to his father, who is also his guru. So his father came, so he can pick up the phone or phone again and say, look, there is this foreigner from France. I decided to give her name. He asked for a name. So should I or not? Because somehow this is a parampara stuff. No, you cannot enter a parampara and receive diksha just because you ask for it. And his father said, this is really important. You do it tomorrow. So with the Jyotish, he said, okay, this is a good time for that and all. Yeah? And you give that name. So the very next morning, they grab me, they push me in a room, they arrange all the things. So we start the diksha. I was totally amazed. And look, a story was important. One of his people called me and said, you have to give something during your diksha. So something precious for you. So I was in India. I was thinking, okay, if I purchase something from here, my guru also can purchase it. This is nothing special. And of course, it was nothing so special for me. So the only thing I have is a stone, a labradorite.
Oh, labradorite. Yeah.
Labradorite. Yeah. And I purchased that like 20 years ago when I started to use medicinal plant. And this is a kind of stone that I worship as the stone who protect me. I have a really special relationship. So it was in my hotel. You know, there's one Davantari statue, there is my stone and all, and I do puja every day and all. And so I look at that stone and say, should I give that? I was not ready at all to give that stone because it was my stone, you know, my precious stone. So I was struggling all the night. Should I give that stone? Not give that stone. This is my stone. And finally in the morning, I say, okay, look, I take that stone and I go to the diksha with that. So I do the diksha and all. I get ordinate in the parampara. And he say, you have to be ordinate also in the Kerala, in the presence of my father, also in a different way. So it was an introduction somehow. So I give him the stone. He put it aside, put flour on it and some liquids I did not remember. And at the really end of the diksha, he took back the stone to me. He said, look, you take back that stone close to in the hotel where you took it and you continue to worship it. So I was astonished because how he know that I worship that stone. I never tell anyone apart my wife because she witnessed me every day worshiping that stone. And he bringing back that. And for me, I took, okay, I have so a lot of attachment. I lose this attachment. I give it to him. And it was sufficient for him to make me understand that I will have to let it go many things in my study of Nadi Pariksha in that parampara. So I was totally amazed. So this is like, you know, you read books about story of people went to India with a guru. And so suddenly it's happened to me. So I was like a child, but in same time, I was feeling something here was really powerful and start to make me really dance and really responsible. I was entering in the sacred space of people, science, Shiva and Parvati, Muruga, Agastya, Tereyar, Siddhayar, and all the parampara was behind me now. And this is not just fun of it. It's also a great responsibility. So after that, my relationship with those people was changing quite drastically. They took me like a real student, and I made things I never think I was able to do. And one time, and one of my colleagues who were an allopathic doctor, he was in India. At that time, I was with my guru. He's also as a allopathic doctor. He's an expert in pulse diagnosis also. In some work of a French doctor called Paul Nogier, who is really famous in China because he studied the pulse in China, and he make another techniques that the Chinese themselves now study. So he's really famous doctor, Paul Nogier, who learned Nadi Pariksha from China, and he just invented a new system. And now in France, there are many people who are acupuncturists on the ear who are using the pulse with the thumb. So
how do you do it with the thumb? So what
just with the thumb, they are with the thumb, with the hands, they are passing the hand all around the body, right. And they can, translate the breach in the organs or in the energetic system. With the meridians, they are able to know where is the problem. This French doctor, he came back with a pulse you take with the thumb only, despite the fact that in allopathic medicine, you never use the thumb to take the pulse because you can feel your own pulse inside your thumb and be confused with the pulse of the patient. But then he developed a method called RAC, means R-A-C. This is the nickname for these techniques. And my friend was an expert in that. So when I found my guru and all this Nadi Pariksha stuff, I invite him in India to meet my guru. And my guru was giving a class one day, and I translate to my friend in French. And at one time, my guru said, "No, your translate is wrong. You did not talk what I say exactly." It was true because for the sake of simplification, I was just reducing the thing and bypass many things because I don't want to burden my friend who was not really, prepare of that kind of teaching. So that period was really strange, and I feel my gurukulam start from that point. And I think my guru himself was, if I could say, a little bit surprised also of that. But because he's my guru, he cannot also show that he was surprised. But it was surprising for both of us.
So did you say that, so is there a tradition also that's connected to this which kind of looks at the regular stuff on the hand? It's not just the palm, so not just the pulse. So they're looking at the whole hand as well, and then you do the lines on the palm, like it's a kind of palmistry. Is that all intermixed or?
Yes, of course. And this is, like I said, Ayurveda is not just medicine. This is the knowledge of life somehow. And in the Lada Vidya Parampara, we took the spanda, means the pulsation, as a guru. So we start from the fact that everything is pulsating in life, and that many objects, they are just what they are because they are doing some obstruction of the main spanda, and because they make obstruction to the pulsation, they have some characteristics. So one phone has some characteristic, one glass has some other characteristic, because they are distorted, they are obstructed the main spanda in another spanda. So this spanda is called a phone, this spanda is called a glass. So this is not only a tools of diagnosis, it's a real spiritual way that you are looking at life in a term of pulsation. And this Ladavidya Parampara is a tantric parampara which are try to understand the pulse not only as a tool of diagnostic, but also as a tools to understand life, to understand the nature. So there are some techniques of yoga we call Shiva Yoga. And inside Shiva Yoga, you have called what we call the Swara Tantra, means how to understand the pattern of the breath inside the nose and inside the belly, and how to separate prana from the breath, which is called Vasi Yoga. Vasi is a special way which is beyond current pranayama, where we learn to separate prana from the breath. And we are not just exercising the breath. We are learning how inside we separate the prana from the breath. And this is the main training we receive as a Nadi Pariksha practitioner, because we have the techniques which is recorded in the Nadi Sutra books, like a manuscript. This is in a palm leaf form, in the same Tamil, I think, languages. And these are recorded the techniques. You know, you have different level of the pulse, the animal's gaits, the proportion of the pulse under the three fingers, and also the sense of the pulse is going from the hand to the elbow, or the elbow to the hand, and so, also where it touch the finger. So this is called sthana. And so we have a lot of different way to technically approach the pulse rationally with the techniques and to understand what's going on in the pulse. So we link the movement of the animals with the proportion, the sense, and the place where it tap. And this, we have a grill of lecture, which is Vata, Pitta, Kapha. Mata, Pitta, Guru, means mother, father, and the Guru. And also Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So we are trained to read the pulse at three levels. One level, which we call Manonadi. It's a levels of Sharira, means of the body. We learn about Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the interaction in the Shotas, in the Sthanas, so where the pulse is going, and if Vata is pushing Pitta in the upward way or downward way, and stuff like that. So this is the first level of interpretation. Then we interpret the pulse also in the way of Mata, Pitta, and Guru. Means in the social and interconnected social relationship of the person who may be sick or have some problem, and to see what is his energetic connection with these big entities, which are really, really important according Indian culture, but as well for us, meaning the relationship with our mother and everything which is the motherhoodness of the world somehow. Our relationship with the father, which is of course different that with our mother, and what is the fatherhood of all the universe, and also our relationship with life, with the teaching of the Guru, with nature. So we also have another level of interpretation, which is called Guru Nadi, which is another level of understanding of the Nadi. Then after we have the Atma Nadi, where we try to understand the three principles of life, which is the creator, Brahma, the one who preserves, who maintains, which is Vishnu, and the one which is transforming, destructing, which is Shiva. So these three are the three facets of the same thing. The one, everything is created, stay for some time and disappear, and transform to another creation, who again stay for some time and all. So when we learn to study the pulse, we try to master this three level of understanding, which is a lifelong process, and where you need to transform your own body, your own sukshma sharira, your own subtle body, and your karana sharira, your causal body, to become an expert in that field, which is not only a diagnostic tools, but a way of life. It's a spiritual path that by touching the pulse, somehow you are able to know everything in that universe, because your pulse, your spanda, your pulsation is connected with all the pulsation of the universe. So as you can keep some focus, some dhyana in that pulsation, there are level and level and level and level and level you can pierce to understand everything around you.
Are you going down in level? So are you pressing harder to read each one, or you're just reading the same thing on the same?
Yeah, somehow you may have this approach, but this is just to certify yourself that you are at the right place, because you have two ways of touching the nadi. The first one is what we call the static nadi. You put your finger in the correct place, and for that you have to feel other point in the hand to find the right place where to put the finger, but also the right pressure you should have with those fingers. And by the right place and the right pressure, and by what you feel, by these two things, you study to learn what to feel when you are at the correct place. And when you are in the correct place, you can apply the technique of the Nadi Pariksha, which is a static nadi, like the Chinese, where different pressure and all. Okay? So this is called static nadi. After that, when you are in this static nadi, you can go to the dynamic nadi. So the dynamic way of attracting somehow the pranic field of the person inside your own pranic field, and to scan the person like it is your own body somehow, and to know and to learn everything about the person. So it's a really delicate act. It's a really, I would say, sacred act. And myself, I'm not practicing this second type of pulse every day. If I find I'm not well, or if I find I'm tired or something, I will not put me in danger, or I will not push the karmic effect of doing that kind of act, and to link my karma with the karma of the person, if I am not able to practice properly what was taught to me by my parampara. So I have always the static nadi, who do not require really a great introspective approach, but like a sensibility, and of course a good learning about the techniques to get something from the pulse as a diagnosis, you know. So this is always in that techniques, we are shifting from static pulse, dynamic pulse, static pulse, dynamic pulse. This is like, like a airport. Your plane is on the tarmac, is rolling, but sometimes it's like, it's take off. Sometimes the control tower say, look, it's not time for you to go, you know? So the first teaching is a teaching of humility. And my guru many times warned me that doing that type of reading is engaging things that is beyond our understanding, and that if I don't want to create and to link my karma with others in a way that many lives may be necessary to remove the knots I tied during that reading, I should not practice it. That's it. And it's okay. Just with the techniques, you can get some good read as well. This is different of the Chinese pulse, which is only somehow static. You have some lodge, like with the spleen or the intestine or the triple warmer, and by pressing less or more, you can understand. Here in the techniques, and this is why, the book of Dr. Vasant Laid is really interesting. But for me, he took things from the Chinese medicine, which are not really in the parampara of India, and in Ayurveda itself, the organs are secondary. We are not taking care of organs. This is not like in Chinese, that the system is all around organs, the energy and the link in between all these organs. In Ayurveda, we spoke in terms of shrotas. System means organs with all the system within it.
Yeah.
And we speak about, for me, another level, which is the level of the terrain, means Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So the very roots cause of the disease is not in the organs, are first in the dosha. And then after this dosha is going maybe to the liver or to the heart or to the head, is another story. Story is first, in the first place, Vata. So by the techniques, which is really in agreement with the basic principle of Ayurveda, we should be able to understand which dosha is there, how we move the gati of the dosha. He move up, he move down, is centripet or is centrifugal. Does he push another dosha? Or does this dosha, which is vitiated, is perturbating the vayu dynamics? Means is apana vayu is able to do his own functionment? Or is apana get stuck in samana vayu? Because we are reading nadi, nad means information in nadi. So nadi are systems where information are pulsating. So, of course, the great master of all that is Vayu, prana. And the field of prana, mainly in Ayurveda, we have these 5 prana, this prana vayu, apana vayu, samana vayu, vyana vayu, and udana vayu. So, if you want to understand how pitta and kapha and vayu is speaking together, and because Vayu is the only one who moves the other, this technique is more able to make you understand at that level which one is functioning more than another, how the dynamics of Vayu are perturbated, and how it disturbs Pitta and Kapha, which are another level in the matter. Vayu is the subtlest level in the matter, which is even not materials, and Pitta is another level of Vata in the matter, and Kapha is another level of Pitta, which is another level of Vata in the matter. So somehow in the West, we have a tendency to separate completely Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. You are like this, you are like that, your Prakriti is this and that. Fine. But the basic principle is that without Vayu, Pitta is not existing, Kapha is not existing. If there is a disease, somehow there is obstruction. And this obstruction is what? An obstruction of the spanda, of the the dynamism of the Panchavayu. So because the Vayu are perturbated, the other are perturbated. So by this technique, you start from there. You can really apply the level of understanding of the Ayurveda like in the text, you know? It's just not like, okay, you have some Vata problem, you do just Abhyanga because this is opposite in quality, it will be fine. Okay, but where is your Vata? Does this Vata is moving down, up, or this Vata is obstruct? Where? In which place? And does your system can eliminate this Vata or not? Because I will treat differently if I am able to treat that Vata that the body is already processing and eliminating in a situation where this Vata is not moving and the body vitality is not able to process this Vata. So there you are correct information of what is going on really deeply. Not just as a simple diagnostic, okay, Vata is disturbing.
Are you doing, what about left and right? Is it just one side or are you doing both sides?
So this is a complicated subject, but mainly in the text, in the tantric books like the Nadi Tarangini, Nadi Darshana, written by Kapila Muni or Ravana Muni, you have this link with this tantric way of looking at the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body with Hida, Pingala, the Surya, Chandra, you know, the sun and the moon. And of course, mainly you will read the pulse of the left hand in the woman and the right pulse in the hand of the man. So contrarily of the Chinese or the Tibetan pulse diagnosis, in the system of the Siddha, you take only one hand. Okay, so you choose according this is a woman or according this is a male. You choose the side, but it's a little bit complicated than that because we have in this tantric approach that some women have the nadi, rather the moon nadi, the hida nadi, is not on the left side, it is on the right side. And for certain male, the right nadi is on the left side, and this is reverse.
Right.
So for that, you use some mark in the hand, because the hand and the mark will give you some appreciation if you are not able with your faculties to determine that. The reading of the palm will give you the right answer, that this person is like, I can say 80% of the people, Pingala is on the right and Ida is on the left. But for 20% of the other, the nature is such that is surprising, and they already, no, sometimes there is people that have the liver on the left side rather than on the right side. Things like that, but it's a little bit more common with the energetic field that sometimes it is reverse. It's why sometimes as well, the woman is pushing forward more male characteristic, and some men also are pushing forward some female characteristic, which are different from one person to another. We are also learning how to identify the correct nadi to take. Because Ida and Pingala are not branched the same way with the whole bench of nadi. You have to choose. You have to choose a nadi, and you always take the Ida nadi in the female and the Pingala nadi in the male. But it can be this Pingala and Ida are
So somebody comes in and says, okay, like I'm ready. You think, okay, it's a male, I'm going to do it on the right side. You take the pulse and then you suddenly think, actually, it's the other side.
No.
Okay.
Yes, it can happen, but many I always ask because I'm looking from the nails and looking for the hands because I'm also a Jyotish reader. So I this is not my purpose during a Ayurvedic consultation to read the hand, but with a brief look, I can say, okay, this person may act or have that sensibility or that.
So you're looking at the hands first.
Yes, really quickly. And then after I look, I say, okay, that sign is there and there. So it's a male. And yes, because I see the hand and that signs that I recognize, this is the right hand I have to choose to read the Nadi.
Got it. So what's some primary lines? I mean, is it like the IU line, like the lifeline in the hand is like becomes of more importance, or is it the shape, or would it be like the heat or the quality of the hand? I mean, or the nails. What would you be looking for in the nails?
So I'm looking for the line. I'm looking for the insertion of the term as well, and I'm looking to the dermatoglyph on the index finger.
The actual fingerprints, the shape of the like.
So all that signs will push me forward toward one end rather than another. Despite that, in the textbook of Nadi Pariksha, this is always written like simple, left for a woman, right for male, and that's it. But it's a little bit complicated than that, and many times I was really surprised because you have really to be connected to the right Nadi if you want a whole lecture. Otherwise, if you are not in the good Nadi, you may have wrong information.
You were talking about, you said about the Shiva, Brahma, and the Vishnu kind of. Obviously, I mean, the tradition that I learned as well on the fingerprints, you've also got like the shank. You've got these shapes. So like the whirls are specific to more like Vishnu because it's more like the chakra. So would you consider that in the reading as well? I mean, you're looking at, if you see all like four fingers have got one type of loop, but say the last one finger has got a different loop, would that?
No, I did not learn that link in between the deities and the pattern of the dermatoglyph.
Okay.
But I use always the dermatoglyph as a perspective of the elements. The 5 elements in the hand and in the karma of the person. I will link, for example, the world shape is linked with the hair element. The loop shape is linked with the water element. The tended arch with the fire element and the arch with earth element. Because Akash heater is not really an element, and it is beyond the elements and is beyond,
isn't it?
Yes, it's beyond mind and matter. So you cannot interpret Akash in the hand. So mainly the what I have learned in the hand is based on the 5 elements, and the proportion. There are many in the world. You will have, according to the race and the genetics, you will have patterns who in proportion will be different from one civilization than another civilization. For example, in Asia, you will have a lot of wall patterns. Mainly this is these patterns. In West, you will have a lot of loop patterns. So according to the proportion and also the place on Earth, you interpret that things differently, and you will push your diagnosis according to that proportion mainly. Yes. We had a talk like a few weeks before that talk. I said to you, the first time someone took my pulse, he said, look, when you took the pulse, you can read the hand. And so for me, it was like, okay, I cannot learn anything about pulse diagnosis in India where I was at that time. So let's go to the Hasta Jyotish field. This is what I did. And what was really surprising is that when I started to be in this Lada Vidya Parampara, my guru, I had the chance, he came to my home. So it was really a surprise for me because normally a guru never go to the place of the student. But as a tantric guru, he doesn't care that much of this Brahmanic way of looking at the guru-shishya relationship. At that time, he was speaking to me about hand. Look, in the Lada Vidya Parampara, there were this old way, this from Agastya Muni, of reading the dermatoglyphs on the finger and to know everything from the people from their dermatoglyph finger. And actually, I have a huge collection of hand and dermatoglyph because I was studying that and was consulting that like that in India. So when I opened the book with all the hand, he looked at me and he said, look, in the parampara, we forget that knowledge. Nowadays, nobody is knowing about the Samudrika Shastra, no? This way of reading the hand, not just from the line, from the Rekha, but from the dermatoglyph.
Yeah.
And this is the speciality of our parampara. And somehow you before going in this parampara were already in that field. So it pushed me forward to understand that somehow I have a real connection with this parampara, and that it was a good way for me because as a foreigner, I was still doubting, despite all my excitement, I said, look what I'm doing there. What is the purpose? And but in fact, this is what I want to say is that it's stronger than my own will somehow. It pushed me there again and again, and somehow I feel so connected with different gurus who have no physical corpse anymore. So with my lineage, somehow I always receiving information. And when I spoke with my guru, he's really happy of that because himself is doing the same thing because this parampara somehow get cut or because of the invaders, there are many things who get lost. And he's also trying to recover 64 basma because he's basma, they are this how you say this ash, metallic ash, and also poisonous plant ash mixed together. And I don't know, in the picture, maybe you have a picture where he's handling a stick, a danda. And one of our guru in lineage is called Dandapani, and this Gopal Guru, he used to be a lada. A charaka means someone who is moving from village to the village. It was in Andhra Pradesh like 1.5 century ago or 2 centuries ago. And he carried the medicine in this stick. So the stick, there are little boxes in it, like, like in the are you saying the heights you have a palette?
That's a bit like bamboo, isn't it? Where you have like sections in the stick.
Yes. And in these sections is a wall where the basma were. So he has these 64 basma who are written in the Nadi Sutra, in the text of the Parampara. And he's learning how, to control his nostril because he was practicing Vasi Yoga to practice and become a master in Nadi Pariksha. But he was also old, so he was using his stick. And when he arrived in the village, the stick, he removed all the container So he have like 32 container with 2 different type of basma. And the people came in the village to get some cure of about things. And from this little, he give a little of ash because it's really powerful. So you need really to dilute in honey or different stuff of hanupan, of liquids, and to bring just like one sip at a time to get effective. So it was sufficient. His whole pharmacy was in his stick.
Yeah. And I think in Charaka, isn't there? There's like a whole section on like the importance of carrying a stick as well. He goes into like, not for that reason, but it's interesting that a stick has been picked out as an important thing to carry when you're on a journey. You know, for many.
And who knows? Who knows? We do not know actually what Charaka means to carrying a stick is good. Maybe it's for fighting the wild beast on the path or the robber, but also it may be to try to work with your nostril and to push the prana in one nostril to another, or it may be also to carry your own pharmacy.
Yeah, protected, isn't it? Kind of hidden in the stick, so it can't be. You would think to steal that. Yeah, if you had a box or something that you were carrying, it might single you out for robbers or something.
So my master is also in a way of recollecting something, because he had maybe like around 40 of that basma, but there are 24 were still lost. That he tried by his own sadhana and his own tapas to recollect. So what I mean to say is that a guru parampara is not just a process of a master, a real and a physical master who are teaching something. Sometimes the master himself or herself is also recollecting things. And because of the listening of the shishya, because of the concentration of the students, the guru is able also to recollect some things from the previous master who have no physical body anymore. So when we means guru shishya parampara, this is the interaction between a master and a student. It's not just a master and a student. It's the master-student relationship who makes the guru able to also recollect things who are not yet clear or totally captured in the Akashic field. And for me, that now that I become a teacher and I'm a mentor in my own school, I was aware of that. But now that I'm in place somehow as a kind of master, I know that because of the quality of my student, I'm able also to recollect things that by my own I was not able to touch.
Are you finding yourself looking at students' hands when they come and just think, is this person going to be a good person to teach or not?
Well, yes, it's true that when I have choose my student in this monthret, I look briefly at the palm print. But rather to find a good student, I try to select the people who are the more different, so that I could have different colors and different sensibility. Yeah, of course, there are some signs that you may find, but again, what is in the hand is not always what is already true. This is the map, but it doesn't mean that the person is aware of the map and who is like, how you say, incarnated all the quality you may find in the hand. So it's a bit tricky, because sometimes say, oh, yes, it's a good hand, so it's a good student, but you should put him in the right palm so that what is written on the map can really, how you say, pop up somehow. Otherwise, sometimes there are people where a lot of obstruction, and you may find also in the hand really good qualities, but also what may obstruct those qualities. Because this is for me what is interesting. The problematics between what is written, which is like very good for the person, but also the obstruction that potential may encounter on the path. And this speak really of that person, not only the quality in the hand, but the quality as well the difficulty. So the two together are really spoken of what are facing the person right now. And how as a teacher I can help them to look at that and to be aware of that, and what can I do?
Well, that's really kind of you've broached that subject, and I guess we should kind of wrap up. It's been fascinating. I mean, it's just a subject I could just listen to all day. So I can go on and on, but I'm conscious of not going on too long for this. It was just to say, really, I mean, how would people go about contacting you? Or you're saying you're doing teaching. If people are interested in,
I can give you my email address.
I can put that.
People want to contact me, but I'm not ensuring that I can answer to everyone because I'm really, really busy. My schedule for consultation is full, so I'm not taking new consultation actually. Otherwise, I'm not able to do the follow-up for the other consultation. And for me, it's more important to follow the person properly. And as we know in Ayurveda, there is this realm of upashaya and upashaya, meaning that the things are changing and evolve. There is a kind of evolution. Each time you put something forward, it can be an advice, it can be a plans or a change in your habit, your body can take another configuration. So I'm really eager to following the people like that, rather than to have a lot of people and to cure people. I'm not a curist. I'm not someone who cure people. I'm maybe rather someone who try to accompany the people. So for that, I am not taking any more new consultation right now. My teaching is taking me a lot of time, but I love teaching. So now, for example, I am doing a Panchakarma retreat for my students from 22 August to 14 September for 3 weeks. We are teaching them how to receive a Panchakarma and how to give a Panchakarma. Because again, this is my way of working. You learn even better after having receiving the treatment and to feel what's going on and to understand that in the way of dosha, mala, dhatu, agni and all. Then after to give this type of treatment, you are more eager or in a better place to understand what the patient is experiencing. We had one Panchakarma retreat in spring that one part of my group was giving the treatment to another part, and now we do reverse from 22 August to 14 September. So I'm really busy to prepare all that right now. But I'm really open to receive your commentaries, your suggestion, your question. Somehow, if I can answer that, I will do it with pleasure.
Really. I'll put up the information, your contact details and the websites. People can go and have a look and see what you're doing in a bit more detail. And I mean, if nothing else, at least it's alerted to people to what is possible and what knowledge is out there. I mean, it was great to hear that there is this kind of tradition where you can go into more depth with the pulse. I mean, like I said, I never found anything, a huge amount of information, but obviously it's there and you found it. So that's kind of might act as an inspiration for others to go out and find some more information on that. So yeah, that's great. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming and speaking to us today. It's been really fascinating. People can follow up. I'll put all the contact information underneath. And just thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate hearing your
story. Thank you, Andrew, for your invitation. I hope my English was not that much.
Brilliant, fantastic. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.